Welcome to this edition of Miles Ahead, and you join me here in a new 5th generation Toyota Land Cruiser. Released to quite a bit of fanfare actually. I think the Land Cruiser has been a sort of an important part of the automotive landscape for many years now. So it's good to see it back. I mean, we're going to take this car out for a drive. We're going to have a look at the specs and all that sort of stuff, the interior, number of features to get through, and yeah, have a look around the outside as well. I think they've done a really good job on the design of this. It sort of fits that sort of retro cool that people seem to want and sort of follows a little bit in the footsteps of the Defender. But we'll start with some facts and figures on this car. In the UK, this is the Invincible edition. The first edition's already sold out. It comes in at £75,000. Now, one of my concerns before I received this car was the engine and the power. It's a 2.8 litre 4-cylinder engine, produces 202 brake horsepower and 500 newton meters of torque. Now, in a car weighing 2.5 tonnes, that means 0 to 60 takes 10.9 seconds. I was slightly concerned that it might be a bit too sluggish, but as we'll get to on the drive along, that's really not what this car is about. Toyota made the buying of this car very simple. The colour on the exterior that we'll get to is an optional extra at 800 quid. Otherwise, everything in here comes as standard, from 7-seat, 14-speaker JBL stereo, fridge in the centre console. Everything comes as standard, and they've tried to make everything as easy as possible as well with regards to repair. This is a proper off-road car, as we shall get to. Anyway, we've got quite a bit to run through, so we're going to start by taking it out for a drive, then we'll have a look around the exterior and interior. Right, well, let's start by taking this new Land Cruiser out for a spin. The first thing you might notice, there is quite a lot of engine noise. I think certainly compared to driving the Defender, I had one of them recently, albeit in hybrid guise, but you still got the 6-cylinder engine, just offers a bit more refinement than you get in this. The engine constantly feels like it's doing a lot of work all the time, because it's got a lot of weight to drag around with it, and it picks up well enough. I mean, it's torquey. You know, the towing capacity as a result of that is 3,500 kilograms, and that's what you're going to be using this car for. So my initial impression upon receiving it was, well, because it's at £75,000, the competition really is the Defender for on-road use. You've obviously got the Ineos Grenadier as well if you're doing a lot more off-roading. I've got to sample one of those last year, and it's definitely fully geared up for the off-road stuff. I think you might struggle a bit more with that on the day-to-day. Whereas the Defender, because of the way they've designed that these days and the sort of materials and everything you get with it, it doesn't feel like an environment that you want to get dirty. Whereas this feels far more utilitarian, but it's still very comfortable. I think the ride quality is very good in it. We did a trip around Centre Parks with the family at the weekend, and we got 6 of us in on the way there, and yeah, no drama at all, very easy to set up and just get on with everything. But because it's still got that off-road appeal as well, I think it sort of falls into its own niche between the Defender and the Grenadier, in that if you happen to own a bit of farmland and you genuinely need a bit of off-roading, but you also need to do the school run and occasionally pop into town and that sort of thing, then this really does tick all the boxes in my opinion. Yeah, it feels a bit more rough and ready than the Defender, but not as rough and ready as the Grenadier. The sort of likes for everyday use, you've got this wonderful commanding driving position. You really do feel nice and high up here. You've also got all the sort of mod cons and luxury touches that you might expect. We've got air conditioned seats, we've got heated steering wheel, it's got adaptive cruise control. Toyota's array of safety features are actually very good and very easy to use. Like the lane keep assist isn't overbearing. You can turn off things like speed limit warning bongs and all that sort of stuff very easily as well. We're just coming in towards the town now, and here's one of the other things. Is it modern luxury in 2025 to not have to worry about speed bumps and potholes? Because you see them up ahead, and in most cars these days, the state of the roads is so bad that you're constantly worrying about what's going to happen to your car. And I feel like Invincible is an apt name for this car, because it does feel invincible in everyday settings. This isn't an off-road review. I've seen this specific car used for other media outlets, and I know that it can do all of the off-road stuff, but from just on-road practicality and comfort, not having to worry about speed bumps and potholes is really rather nice. It's got a luxury touch in its own right. And it's also got all the other things like the overhead camera, parking assistant. We've got full panoramic sunroof up here as well. So it's a very nice place to be as well. It's very comfortable. It's perhaps not quite as comfortable as the Defender. It doesn't quite have the same sort of level of opulence, I would say, as that, but really this feels more designed towards the off-road end of the spectrum. Cover off some of the boring stuff like MPG. I think they state that it'll do 26.4. I've done just shy of 170 miles now and have achieved 30.5 MPG, which for a car of this size and stature I think is pretty respectable. One of my takeaways from the Defender, that being a hybrid, was you'd be much better off just getting a diesel engine in that car, and this is the same thing. This engine is a bit noisy, it is a bit uncultured, unrefined, but yeah, it is a bit too loud. It does suit the character of this car much more. It's got all of that low down grunt, which is exactly what you want. And yeah, you can look at a bit of paper and say, oh, 0 to 60 in 10.9, 11 seconds is too long. And that is really slow by modern standards, but it's just really not what this car's about at all. Note for the sort of dimensions of it. So it's just under 5 metres long and just under 2 metres wide. Now I assume that means without the mirrors, because that has actually got a smaller footprint. We had the Audi RS6 GT in last week, and that was actually longer and slightly wider than this, believe it or not. But yeah, I mean, this doesn't feel like a big car when you're on the move, because you can see the extremities, because it's got the aerodynamic properties of a brick. You can actually see where the corners of the car are, so it makes it very easy to see at. And these wing mirrors are absolutely massive. So yeah, very easy car to use, very easy to get everyone in and out of. It will definitely do all the off-roading stuff. I've got a plethora of off-road buttons down here that I haven't even had a chance to look at. You know, like I said, not going to be using them for the purposes of this review, but absolutely, if you have some off-road purpose in your life, but you also need to get the family around, then this car falls into that niche and fits it perfectly. Well, that's enough of the drive around anyway. We'll jump up and we'll jump out even and have a look around the outside. I wonder if jump up might actually have been a better term. As you can see, it's quite an imposing car. So we've got the ledge here, you grab handle, and it can be slightly awkward to leverage yourself in. Yeah, once you get inside, as you can see, there's like an array of physical buttons for all the off-road modes, and for fans of physical buttons for HVAC and everything else, you've got all that up here. I'll just start the engine. We'll just have a very quick look at the infotainment system. You get a 12.5-inch screen here. It's got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, all that sort of stuff, so works very well. And you get a nice clean dashboard over here. As you can see, we've done 177 miles now at 30.5 mpg. And this is all, yeah, very, very easy to set up here. Nice clear screen. Yeah, nice interface down there. As mentioned, heated and air-conditioned seats for driver and passenger, and in the rear as well, which is good. And then you've got a chilled cubby hole in here. You just have to remember to turn the cool box on, and then that does its thing in there. Useful for keeping a couple of cans cold on the drive. Right, we'll kill that off now. Turn the radio off primarily. I'll have a quick look in the back, because as I mentioned, it is a 7-seater. So come back here. So yeah, as you can see, that middle row's got loads of space there, but it's actually very easy to get into the back. So there's a lever here that drops these seats down. Pull that forward, and then there is just a button in the back here to do the seats. So I'll just give a quick demonstration of those. Take a little bit of time to get there. You have to manually do the headrest, but there's actually a decent amount of legroom back there. I mean, me personally, I'm 6'2", I want to get stuck in there for a long drive, but it's more than good enough for kids and smaller adults and that sort of thing. And just to conclude the internal bit, we'll just have a quick look at the boot as well while we're here. Excuse my shoddy camera work. So as you can see, it's plenty big enough with the rear seats down, but when the rear seats are in place, you really don't get much space here at all. You can get a couple of rucksacks, and that's about your lot. But yeah, in just the normal 5-seat configuration, the boot is absolutely massive. So we'll close that. There are a couple of points that are sort of pertinent to the driving experience that are perhaps best amplified just by having a look around the size of the car, because as I mentioned, you don't really feel the sheer size and scale of it from the driver's seat. It's on the coilover springs. The reason for that is that they are easier to repair than air springs, so you do get quite a bit of body roll in the corners with it as well. This Invincible edition comes on 20-inch wheels. I think the first edition was on 18s, and the easiest way to spot the difference between the two is the headlights. So you notice that they're rectangular on this Invincible edition. On the first edition, they are circles. The colour, somewhat to my surprise, has split opinion. I quite like it. It's called Sand. Yeah, 800 quid option, as I mentioned. Yeah, I like it. I think it suits the car. It's got a sort of rugged sort of appeal. But yeah, I've had a few people comment that that's not the choice that they would go for. But just to wrap this up, we'll sort of come around the other side as well. Look, it is a huge car, which it does well to hide much of that in the driving experience. And also, yeah, the weight is, it's around 2.5 tonnes. That's before people have got in. So once you've got passengers and luggage and all that sort of thing in, the weight does increase substantially. The only time you're really aware of that is under heavy braking. Yeah, you just sort of suddenly become, oh God, hang on, yeah, this has got a bit more work to do than I anticipated. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, I think they've nailed the retro looks on this car. I think it looks really good, this car, if you want a big, bulky SUV with like proper 4x4 credentials. They'd sort of gone missing for a while, hadn't they, this sort of car, making a return with the Defender and the Ineos Grenadier. The G-Wagon's always been there, but I think the price of those now and sort of status of the people who drive them has sort of moved that car rather beyond being something that you use to run through a muddy field. So yeah, like in conclusion, I've come to quite like this car. Yeah, my concerns about the engine were allayed over time. Yeah, it's just not really, you're not buying a car like this for performance. It could be a bit quieter, a bit more refined, but I think you'd very quickly get used to that. And yeah, as I mentioned, if you happen to own a bit of farmland and you need to do a bit of off-roading, but you also need to get the kids to school and go into town and that sort of stuff, then this fits that niche spectacularly well.